This card was printed in 2010, yet might still be super relevant 11 years later in 2021. What's going on, guys? This is Musin. Today we will be taking a look at the quick play spell card Mirror of the Ice Barrier to try to figure out, is this card the card to beat the meta, and if so, how could we utilize it? So I'm going to try to analyze all the pros, cons, applications, etc. But before you start, if you already are not subscribed, please make sure you do click on the subscribe button, and the notification bell would seriously motivate me so much to keep making videos like these. You have no freaking idea. As long as I get your guys' support, I will always keep on making card reviews, combo videos, deck profiles, anything you guys want. Honestly, as long as you guys show interest, I will, be down for anything. So let's jump right into it. So like I said, it's a quick play spell card, and it essentially reads, during this turn, each time a card or cards is banished from your hand, field, and or graveyard by an opponent's activated monster effect, this is really relevant, apply the following effects. So from the hand, banish up to 2 random cards from your opponent's hand. From the field, banish up to 2 cards your opponent controls, and from the graveyard, banish up to 2 cards from your opponent's graveyard. So it kind of acts as a mirror in a way. It really does deserve its name, and in a way, it's actually funny because it's an Ice Barrier card, and it's perfect to counter cards like Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, because Trishula makes you lose a card from your hand, field, and graveyard. So if you flip this card, Mirror of the Ice Barrier, against a card like Trishula trying to resolve, you're making your opponent lose up to 6 cards in total. Not to mention that it doesn't target and can be used directly in response to your opponent's activated monster effect that would banish a card in your possession to immediately punish your opponent, on top of punishing your opponent for the rest of the turn every single time they would try to banish other cards in your possession. Now, one issue is that it is extremely reactive, so already it kind of is not that optimal. I guess I want to say with deck building in general, people are kind of always more inclined to deck build by using cards that are a bit more proactive, so that don't really rely on the opponent doing a specific action for these cards to be kind of playable, like Anti-Spell Fragrance. You just draw it, you set it, and then during your opponent's turn you flip it. It's that simple. Whereas cards like maybe Kaijus, you have to rely on your opponent even drawing like a way to get like a big monster on the field. So if your opponent only goes like set 5 pass or something like that, the Kaiju is just sitting there in the hand, and by the time you get to next turn, there might be no next turn because you might, like I said, just die on the spot. Extremely noteworthy thing here is that even though the card is now once per turn, if you draw multiple copies of the card, the effects kind of don't stack. So if your opponent goes like, I don't know, Tri-Brigade Charade, the Ominous Omen, to banish a card you control, whatever, technically a card on the field, but you get the point, and you chain like 3 Mirror of the Ice Barrier, well, believe it or not, you're not going to have the ability to banish 6 cards your opponent controls, even though your opponent actually chose to banish a card on your field. You only get to banish 2, because it's kind of like a lingering effect in a way where it doesn't really remember that you used multiple copies of Mirror of the Ice Barrier. It's like, I don't really want to compare it to Droll and Logbird, because Droll and Logbird, it's kind of obvious that it doesn't stack, but Mirror of the Ice Barrier might be a bit trickier. Also, on another note, if it does get responded by Lancia, it's not really the end of the world, because your opponent was trying to use a card to banish a card you have like either in your hand, field, and graveyard, so it's not that bad, because at least their effect would kind of fizzle, resolve with no effect, and that wouldn't be like the worst trade. So it kind of ended up acting as a way to beta the Lancia and indirectly negate their first card to banish your card. I would also like to clarify that people have very rarely used the effect to kind of banish cards from your opponent's hand, because historically there have not been that many cards, well, monsters, that actually banished cards from the opponent's hand. A few cards that I can obviously think of are Cyframe Lord Omega and Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier. There's obviously a few more, not that many, but for the most part, people were always trying to banish cards from the opponent's field and graveyard. From the graveyard, you can already kind of think about DD Crow. Now, some people might also think of Called by the Grave, but that actually doesn't work, because I very explicitly said that Mirror of the Ice Barrier only worked when your opponent used activated monster effects to banish your card. So Called by the Grave, being a spell card, kind of bypasses that. Other cards that would unfortunately bypass Mirror of the Ice Barrier would be passive effects, so continuous effects with the official Yu-Gi-Oh! Lango, like Virtual World, QB Shenshen, and Mass Hero Darklaw. They're continuous unless your opponent uses the effect to banish a card from your hand with Darklaw, then you would be able to chain Mirror of the Ice Barrier to banish 2 cards from their hand. So again, another example of randomly being able to banish cards in your opponent's hand, but it kind of doesn't come up often enough for you to justify playing this card just to beat this kind of strategy. Now, it's been historically insane insane against Burning Abyss because your opponent would kind of always have to rely on Farfa, Malebranch of the Burning Abyss, to banish cards temporarily from your field. So when your opponent would target your monster with Farfa, you could chain Mirror of the Ice Barrier. Your opponent would already have used up the Beatrice, so you would be able to banish Beatrice alongside another card. And obviously Beatrice was banished, so it can't really float into Dante Pilgrim, which is usually where people would start to lose the game. You can also banish any other cards, so it's not just monsters, so you could banish like their Fogblade. I'm talking about like back in the days when people play like Phantom Abyss. That's not really a deck that people still play, but you definitely get the point and the main application that this card definitely has. In modern day Yu-Gi-Oh, it's kind of similar in a way, but a bit less flexible, because let's just say your opponent used Tri-Brigade, Shiraig, the Ominous Omen to banish a card on the field. As I just said, it banishes a card on the field and it doesn't target. So if your opponent goes like activate Shiraig and then you go chain Mirror of the Ice Barrier, your opponent could just be like, oh, well, I guess since you're showing me that you have Mirror of the Ice Barrier, I'm just not gonna banish your card. It makes no sense because then you're just gonna banish 2 of my cards. So what your opponent is going to be doing is just banish one of their own cards, and because of that, well, you're not gonna have the full value. Now, it's not that bad because by doing that, you're kind of still preventing your opponent from banishing a card you have from the Omen, so it's actually really not like you're going neg, and your opponent had to banish their other own card with Omen, so at the end of the day, it's kind of as if you were able to negate Omen and make them still banish a card in their possession, instead of just banishing 2 cards with your own free will. And the other competitive decks, they do also have the ability to banish cards in your possession, but unfortunately, they are usually backed up with other negations to make sure that the other negations that they have kind of go through to negate other cards. Yeah, it's like an endless cycle of BS and negations that you can't really bait by using other cards, so don't expect Mirror of the Ice Bear to single-handedly do the entire job for you. It would almost be as foolish as saying Regeki allows you to single-handedly break boards. Obviously, you would kind of rely on other cards if you're trying to break like several negates, and in today's metagame, because of cards like, I don't know, Drytron and stuff like that, not that that deck banishes, but whatever, you get the point. If people have the ability to make a lot of actual negations, omni-negations, a card like Mirror of the Ice Bear might simply not be enough. Still, none of that really changes the fact that the card is kind of an insta-win when it does resolve the way you actually intended to. It also really punishes your opponent so hard, like for the rest of the turn, not just that moment when your opponent banished 1 card either from your hand, field, and graveyard. So in a kind of slower format where people don't really have the luxury of being able to make like 7 billion negates, and you could just use Mirror of the Ice Barrier in a kind of like a techie way in the side deck, the card could actually be not only super under the radar and seriously catch people off guard because people don't know that this card exists for the most part, or if they do, they don't really respect it. They're like, who still plays Mirror of the Ice Bear in 2021 going into 2022? Nobody. I don't care about the card. But trust me, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be respecting the card. I really do believe that you should own 3 copies of Mirror of the Ice Bear at least, especially considering the fact that it's not necessarily hard to get. It's pretty cheap. It's been reprinted in the Ice Bear structure deck. I wonder why. Mirror of the Ice Bear. Thinking. I don't know what you guys actually think of this card. Do you think it's great? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think it's really bad? I just want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section below, or rather should I say read, because I can't really hear anything that you're saying because you guys are kind of like not in front of me. That would be kind of one benefit of doing like podcasts esque videos or like live streams where I get to invite guests on my live stream so we could actually discuss, like pretty much pick like a random viewer for the live stream and be like, okay, you want to go on a Discord call or something? That would be nice. So if you guys are actually interested in live streamings and stuff like that, well, definitely also let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe. Motivates me so much to keep me going like these, and I'll see you next time. Peace.